Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Rockin the Love. Yes, the man with the hair that needs something is Gil, and I'm Robyn. And we're so glad to have you here today. Bienvenidos a todos. Welcome.
Welcome, everybody. It's Rockin the Love. It's a Wednesday, and we have the privilege of being together, broadcasting to you live from Albuquerque, New Mexico. We were in
Where we've just touched down moments ago.
moments ago.
It's so exciting. We got on a plane at 5 this morning, and which means we got to the airport, yes, at dark 30. And we got here at 11:40 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. I don't know. But here we are. That's the important part. So wherever you are, we're here together. And today we're talking about intention
and spontaneity. It is time.
It is time. Our producer asked, why didn't Gil go to hair and makeup before the show? You know how he is about that. But looking at himself, there, maybe he'll learn a lesson.
I went to shower section. That was earlier though. That was way earlier.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Okay, sorry.
Hi Shay. Hi Facebook user. Facebook user, is that Myrna?
We're glad you're all here.
We're glad you're all here. Yes, and Shay alluded to the fact that I'm a winner. I am a winner, and so are you. No, but we had a layover in Vegas, and I went and came back with $50 more than I had when I started.
That was pretty good.
It was pretty good. It was exciting. It was exciting. It was exciting on the machine because it was like it was the Wheel of Fortune one, and I got to do the big spin thing, and then there was also 3 sevens, so I won $70, but I had to put in 20. So that is my calculating and accounting of my event. So yeah, but it was fun. It was super fun. And I really think, since our show's about intention and spontaneity, I just have to say, winners meditate. Yes, they do. But I do have to say that is part of why I think I win in Vegas, because I do win in Vegas. And it's because, like when you have that conversation with people that are going to Vegas and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to Lost Wages. Oh yeah. And everybody has something negative to say. I'm like, no, I go to collect money. That's why I go. And that's what I do. Right? I mean,
which is why we had to schedule this stopover in Vegas, just so you could collect money, right?
It works for me.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that does sound like Wayne. Shay, thank you for decoding. Hi, Wayne. Good to hear you, see you, kinda, all that good stuff. We're happy to have you all here. So our week, let us tell you about our week. I'm going to ask you about your week, but we've been together.
We've been together all week, pretty much.
Or it feels like it's not even really a week.
Oh, no, it wasn't all week. No.
Yeah, it wasn't all week. Okay, so how was your week, Mr. Olmsted?
My week was great. We let me see. I got some bicycle riding in. I completed with a class that I was teaching with someone else, and we had a really fun time. Everybody had a great time. That was Friday and Saturday. I watched Groundhog Day for the second or third time. That was fun. And then I got on a plane on Saturday afternoon and flew to Oakland to meet you.
Okay, so what he's not telling you is that we have this plan. Every year I do an annual Academy Awards party, and I've been doing it since I was 9 years old. So it's a long time. But I moved from Oakland, where my friends that I'd been doing with for the last 15 years or so were like, what are we going to do? How can we not have a party? Blah, blah, blah. So they decided they were going to have a party anyway. So I decided I'd get on a plane, and I decided I was taking him with me. So it was fun, and it was a surprise to a lot of people. Some people knew I was coming, but nobody knew he was coming. So so I got there, and I did some things with friends and went to dinner, and he was coming that night. And he got there, and then we were staying with our friends Susan and Christopher, who you met on the show a couple weeks ago, the couple that had been married going on 50 years. And we shocked and surprised them both in two different times. But we had him come in downstairs. I had him come in downstairs where they didn't know he was going to be. And I told Christopher, I was like, Christopher, can you come down? There was a man in the house. Well, he totally freaked out because they've had people break into his house. And we could feel it, but Gil was like in the bedroom, and Gil came out and he was like, oh my gosh. And so it was super fun. It was super fun. And we surprised her in the morning with a version of that as well. And I surprised Gil because a Saturday night as he was on the plane, I got a call from Minister Reverend Joan Stedman from Agape Bay Area. And she's like, Robyn, can you speak tomorrow? I hear you're in town. I was like, ooh, okay. I was like, okay, sure. I'm at dinner. I'm literally just reaching for a cocktail. And the phone rings and I'm like, oh my God, it's Reverend Joan. I'm like, hi. She's like, can you speak tomorrow? I was like, okay. I'm like, well, Gil's going to be here too. And she's like, oh, that would be perfect. So I text Gil, like, as he gets off the plane, he's reading my text that says, we're speaking tomorrow. So we spoke. It was super fun.
Did that have anything to do with today's title, you think?
It had something to do with
it
today's
did.
title,
Okay, yeah.
which is why we decided to talk about spontaneity.
It's true.
Because how does it show up in your life, right? And in your relationships, and is it something you want to cultivate more of? And then the intention was thrown in this morning when I won at the slot machine. So there you go. There's how we come up with our titles. So we had a good week. So what's been super great is to be with you, obviously. But what was really nice was to not be at home in Carlsbad, and to not be here in New Mexico home, and to be with our friends out in Oakland, because it's like he couldn't really defer to work, or we couldn't defer to family. It's like we just really got to be in the moment and visit with friends and have a great time. And it was really sweet.
It was fun. I had people celebrating my birthday all week in different ways because they were excited to see us and took us out. And thank you, everyone. It was fun.
Because Gil has a birthday this week.
I do.
There's been a whole lot of sugar going on. But it's been good. So yeah, happy birthday.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So thank you, Shay. Shay says it's so nice that we're together. It is nice, right? It's different. Is it different? I don't know. You tell us. Is it different? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel the love when we're apart, but it does feel different when we're sitting here together. I feel excited. I feel a little more excited. I do. Okay. So we're complete on that?
Yeah, we're complete on that. I think we've done it there.
All right.
So what's new? What's good in the world?
That's right. It must be time for good news.
That's what I was thinking.
All right. This is our segment where we talk about what's good in the world, and we acknowledge it, because sometimes we gloss over it. We don't really see it and all of those things. So this is the time when we really just take a look at some things we might not look at. So what do you got?
Well, I got something that's kind of interesting. It's a group in Lima, Peru. Of neurodiversive people. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And
that sounds like a whole show in itself.
I looked into it, and what they're referring to is people that are on the autism spectrum, or people that have bipolar, or people that have these things that cause them, that because of the way they're wired and their brains work, they act somewhat differently than other people. Right. Huh? And so they're considered different in terms of how their neurons, how their whole nervous system works and how they respond. Well, there's this group that now is gathering and bringing light to this, but also creating a space that's positive for folks. They have a picnic in the park, And the neurodiverse people can show up whenever they want, whether they're early or late. They can go if they need to go. They don't have to look at anyone. Everybody is accepted just as they show up. They don't have to follow the norms of society. And at the same time as they're having that opportunity, they're also educating the rest of the world, if you will. So I just thought
beautiful.
it was interesting concept, and probably, although being simple is very powerful for the people involved.
Well, and I also think, it is an interesting concept, and I think that it speaks to even what we're trying to do or attempting to do or working on doing here with all the gender pronouns and things. It's like it's still a space, opening a space of being able to accept people where they are.
Yes.
And acknowledge who they are on some level.
Yeah, it's been, as a society, I think over time we've always tried to figure out, and as our brain works, we try to figure out how to pigeonhole people, how to put them into a box. And part of that, I think, is then we create these norms that we expect. And if you don't fall into those, then now we can't categorize you. We have to put you in another category. Mm-hmm. And we see that like culture to culture, where you show up in another culture and you think you're being normal, and you are, but you're not normal for that culture.
Right.
And so really it's cultural.
Right.
That we have these things set up, and because we don't necessarily fully understand the other culture, whatever it is, whether it's literally a country or a whatever of people, or a particular type of person who's neurodiverse or in gender identity or whatever it is,
right,
then yeah.
Right.
So anyway.
Great. Good story.
Yeah. What do you got?
My story is about a 16-year-old boy in Missouri, and he has a size 23 foot.
Wow.
He's a big boy. He's
exceeded our God kids pretty well there, huh?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And so his mother did a GoFundMe and raised like $12,000, because to buy him shoes, they generally have to be custom made, because they're so expensive and all of that. And so as she did this fundraiser, the GoFundMe, of course it went viral and TV stations picked it up and all of that. And one day he got a call from Entertainment Tonight, and they were like, there's somebody who wants to talk to you. And he got on the phone, and it was Shaquille O'Neal. And Shaq said, I got you, and don't worry, and there's some gifts coming your way. And so long story short, he sent him goodies in the mail. He sent him some clothes, and because he's a big boy too. And he sent him 20 pairs of size 23 shoes.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I just thought I love it when people give back, that we know, that we have a idea of who they are. And it just gives us a chance to see that they're not, just sitting up in their ivory tower. And, kudos to Shaquille O'Neal, because I'm always seeing things that he's doing, like I remember reading a story about him walking through like Home Depot and buying people washer and dryers, and that's so random, and how fun to really be able to, work your money like that, work your time, and really see people and make a difference,
Gee, was he acting spontaneously?
I'm probably not, or but
you don't think so? I think he probably was in some of those cases.
Probably. He probably acts spontaneously all the time, but he certainly has an intention.
Yeah.
And I think his intention is big and changes the world. And that's what we want to do.
That's what we want to do.
Big or small, it's changing the world. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to change the world together. So don't go away. come right back after these thoughts and words from New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center, Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
And
Hello,
we're back.
everybody. We're back. And we're talking at the same time. Isn't that fun? Okay. So this is Rockin the Love. It's Wednesday. We're in March already of 2024. Woo.
Yep.
It's flying by. So we have a fun time today because we're together and we're talking about, well, it is time. That's our little play on intention and spontaneity.
That's our acronym. Intention
Is.
and spontaneity. Yeah. Intention and spontaneity. So let's talk about spontaneity first.
All right.
What is spontaneity to you? What is it?
It's just being able to do something in the moment, to make a decision in the moment about something you're doing, something
Yeah, something unplanned, something
right.
Without
thinking it through is one of the things I saw it say, which sometimes isn't always good, but it isn't always bad either. So,
And that's why in religious science philosophy, there is no good and bad, right? It's all what you make it. But it's true. So, do you consider yourself to be a spontaneous person?
Oh, I'm a spontaneous person all the time.
No, I'm serious. Do you consider yourself to be a spontaneous person?
I'd say I can be, but I don't think I would be classified as a spontaneous person. in general. I have been and I can be, but I'm not always that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we were doing some kind of archetypes or whatever, you're more of a planner or you're more of a thinker through or whatever it is, because you like to know how and why and things like
Yes,
that, right?
and I think if I'm understanding the way I understand spontaneity in part is the willingness to do stuff before you have all the information, before you there's risk involved. You do something and there's risk involved. And I think that I've always been, it's not like I'm very, very risk averse. I'm certainly willing to try things.
But is that true? Does there have to be risk involved? I mean, there's risk because I think, like, for example, in a relationship, we might be speaking to changing up a meal plan, right? I mean, we could have Taco Tuesday every Tuesday for the 20 years of our marriage, and all of a sudden I could go, you know what? Tonight it's gonna be
It's Tilapia Tuesday.
Tahitian Tuesday, and we're gonna, put on outfits and eat Tahitian food. And is there a risk? Sure, there's a risk that you'll go, ugh, I don't want to do that, or that's stupid, but it's not like there's a risk. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
the risk is really what you make it.
right. I mean, all of it's what you make it, and all of it is, I mean, anytime but when you're in any kind of relationship and you change something up, there's a certain level where somebody may respond in a different way. Or when you decide you're going to try something new and you're going to try this thing without having all the facts in line, without having everything laid out and planned, I could end up stepping on somebody else's toes. I could end up doing something that isn't received well. And that's the risk, I guess.
So then the truth of it is we're spontaneous always.
Because we're always doing things.
Because it's always a risk, right? It's a risk to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's true. I mean, I do think that's true. I don't know if I think we're spontaneous all the time. Because I think in the sense of the word.
By definition,
yeah,
that's what I understood you to be. Yes.
Right. Okay, so can you think of a time when, like, what's the time you were the most spontaneous in a relationship?
In a relationship?
Or I guess, whatever. I mean, it could be with yourself. And like, do you have a thought? The part B to that question would be, when were you most spontaneous and it worked, and when didn't it work?
Gosh. I tried running away once. That was kind of spontaneous. However, I was almost 40. I got on a train and left town. It was pretty spontaneous. No thought involved.
I wasn't the wife, everybody. He wasn't running from me, so
right.
Let that go.
I wasn't running from her. That's true. However, I did do it.
That's pretty spontaneous, because that's like you're changing your whole life.
And I didn't even know where I was going. I mean, I got on a train and I was, this train goes here, and I just got on it. And
where did the train go?
It went from Sacramento, and it was headed to like Chicago through Colorado and Salt Lake. And I went to Salt Lake and then went to Colorado, and then I found some town I got off in Colorado and hung around there for a while. And then I got the train and went back.
So is that an example of when it didn't work or when it did?
That's a really good question.
Because I mean, in some ways you executed it, and I'm going to guess in that time frame of the things you did, you were taking care of yourself on some level and getting what you need in order to be able to return to your life.
To figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. No, I think you're right. I mean, at some level, yeah, it worked great. On the other hand, not so great.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it created some frustration and some other stuff, and I, you know, but yeah, that's an example.
That's a good example.
Yeah, yeah. What about you?
Well,
You
I
weren't
know
expecting
it's
that,
well,
were you?
no, I was expecting it, and I was trying to think of something before because I knew the question I was going to ask. I don't, honestly, I know this isn't technically true, probably, but I think getting married was spontaneous. I know that we planned it and all of those things, but even that the time when we were close to the wedding and we were in Hawaii and all of that, I remember the minister saying to me, having a conversation with me, going, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to do this, you know. And like
And you weren't smart enough to say. Sorry.
no, I always like a challenge. So it was actually kind of reverse psychology. But no, but I mean, I did. I mean, there were those moments like where I don't know. I don't know. To me, things like marriage and things like that, I don't know for everybody, but until you actually say yes, it's a journey for me. Once I said yes and committed to, what all of our vows, whatever they were, then I was like all in, totally locked in, set. But when I knew I had to commit to certain things, I mean, I think it. So I know I don't know. I feel like I'm.
Well, let me just. It seems to me that, in some level, what I'm hearing is that everything comes up to a point where we could say it's spontaneous in the sense that making whatever choice it is that we make is always right in that moment we make that choice, and that's it. And the way spontaneous use in general sort of refers to those situations where we haven't kind of prepared for that, or it's not necessary that we make that choice, you know.
So Shay says it does take courage. A recovering control freak here saying, "I'm way more spontaneous than I have ever been." Did you make it to Glenwood Springs on the on the train? That's her hometown.
Oh, Glenwood Springs. I'm trying to remember where I got to, Shay. I'll think about it. I'll probably have to tell you another show, but I'll think about it.
Well, okay. So I also think, yes, I hear what you're saying. So I think that spontaneity really is about embracing the moment and letting go, like letting go of old ideas, right? So I mean, I think another spontaneous moment I would say was the time you surprised me with the trip to Hawaii, right? I mean,
That worked better.
but I mean, well, but so I didn't know where we were going and I didn't know what we were doing. And Gil was like, okay, just pack a bag. This needs to be in your bag. And I knew we had plans with friends that weekend. So I knew we weren't going anywhere far. And long story short, he surprised me. We had plans to watch a football game with our friends. And instead we flew to the football game, which was taking place in Hawaii. So, and so, I mean, I think those times, those moments where I just let go of, okay, I'm going to pack a bag that has X, Y, and Z and go with the flow of the program. I mean, like the willingness to not go, like I know some people would talk their partner out of like, no, I have to know what we're doing. You're surprising me right now. I'll be just as surprised. But to keep going all the way until we were standing at the airport counter,
That's a level of spontaneity. Yes. The going through and walking a path when you don't know exactly what it is is a certain kind of spontaneity, I think, because you have to keep taking the steps and going, even though even this definition that says, doing things without thinking about it. So it's without having all the information, you just go ahead and do it.
Right.
Yeah. So how does intention fit into this, do you think? What's the intention aspect of?
Well, I think that there's two things. I mean, I think that we're talking about spontaneity, and we've been focused on relationship because we're in one, and if you're not in a partnership or a relationship, there's still spontaneity in your relationships with your friends and family and all of that.
And yourself.
Hey,
going out to dinner tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yourself. Well, yeah, and I mean, I think that's part of the spontaneity is really freeing yourself from your routine, or the routine that we get into, or the set ways we get into, and so sometimes it's like, no, darn it, I'm not going to do a guided meditation. I'm gonna,
let's do a walking meditation. By gosh, I'm
Right.
going to break all the rules.
Yeah. So I mean, there's there's the balance of that, and I think intention for me, I think my intention is my intention to myself and my life, and how I want to live, and as I move in that direction, then I'm opened up to more of what comes, because so I think a lot of spontaneity, depending upon, well, it's changing as I think. But I think a lot of spontaneity, for me anyway, comes through vision, and I know a lot of you probably know what visioning is, and or visualization, two different things. However, I was having a conversation this week about, I kind of live by vision. I've been doing visioning for over 20 years. And I was taught at Agape with Reverend Michael Beckwith, who started the whole visioning process. And so it's not like I have to sit down and do a 7-step process and ask certain questions and all of that. It's really just more of how I think. And I'm sure a lot of people, especially all us spiritual folks, we have questions that we go within all the time. So there's times when I just am asking a question and receiving an answer. And if I'm in alignment with my intention for my life, which is to have fun and to be, inspirational to others and authentic, those kind of things, then when things are brought to my attention or when opportunities are presented to me, then it's easier to make a decision by listening to that small, still voice within. That's not always still. Sometimes it's super loud. Right?
Well, I was just thinking about the whole idea of having a setting and intention. And I think sometimes we confuse the idea of intention with a plan. Because intention is not necessarily a plan. It's us being able to hold the space for something we intend, for some place we intend to arrive somehow, some outcome in terms of feeling and process, whereas a plan is what are the steps and what's going to happen and what are we going to get out of it. And it's somewhat of a false distinction, but you get what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah. And so I think in a lot of ways, the idea of visioning or whatever, we are then holding an intention for something and we're open to how that shows up. And that's where the spontaneity comes in. Because if I don't follow the things that show up, if I get tied to a plan, then my intention can get set aside because I can not get there.
Well, I think John kind of speaks to that. He says spontaneity is leaving an unhealthy potluck to come eat my healthiest food and see my friends Robyn and Rev Gil. Which, I mean, thank you, John.
Thank you.
and I think, but in some ways that's true, because John was headed to an event with his father, and clearly it didn't work out well. But he made that decision in the moment to be spontaneous and to go, And so I think that that's important. I mean, I think it's really, how do we, how and when do we shift our mindset? You know, when it's, and when do we listen to that? And I mean, spontaneity almost has that feeling, though, like a real leap of faith on some level, or really, I don't know, I don't know, exciting. Like when I just glanced at things on the internet, a lot of it was about how do you bring spontaneity into your relationship,
Right.
which is a great topic, because I mean, and I'm not sure it was the one we wanted to discuss, but it's a great topic because, yeah, sure, a lot of relationships get stale, right? Or get old, or, I don't know, you find yourself sitting down to talk with someone and talking about the same thing over and over and over, and not moving, right?
And so part of the way that we shift something is you interject, you introduce something that forces people to make new decisions, right? And that's kind of what spontaneity is. You introduce something that it's like, whoa, now I've got to think, if I'm going to go to the go-kart place and jump in the go-kart, now I've got to think differently than if we're going to go and do our normal night out at the pizza place,
Right. Right.
or whatever the thing is, but that kind of idea. Well, I think the intention part for me is really key as we're talking about this, because as we hold intentions for our life, or I want to live in joy, I want to live in peace, I want to live in possibility, I want to live in, my intention is this larger thing. I want to be in a work relationship that supports me. I want to be in a, in whatever it is. And we hold those intentions, and then we are able to accept, embrace, utilize the opportunities that show up in the process, which could further that. And that's where we become spontaneous, because instead of just trying to do exactly what is expected, we look for the ways in which we can do what will work.
Yeah. So I want to go back to what you said somewhere about, like what keeps you from being spontaneous and the fears about that. Because I think that's, that's part of what, it's our opportunity to work through some of that, right? In order to just be more in that movement. So like one of the things, in order to shift your mindset, it's like, I think you have to identify what are you afraid of on some level? Like, what are the fears that keep you, I was going to say playing small, which is valid on some level. Because I think if we have a desire, if we have an idea or a desire or a thought, even like that's bigger than us, I think that's our invitation to play and to play a bigger game. So what is it that holds us back, that stops us and goes,
See,
no.
And that's kind of that argument that every decision at some level is spontaneous, because in that moment I have to make a choice. And when we live from a place of caution, if you will, and wanting to make sure that we fit in, that we don't create a wave, that we, these things, then anything that looks like it's going to push outside that boundary, we avoid. When it comes to that decision, we say no. We pick the thing that's easy, that's not been, that's already been done. It's always done this way. And I think that's one of the things that happens. When you walk into something and you interject something new into a system, whatever that system is, that's going to cause things to change and move. And if things change and move, some folks and sometimes we will feel as if that's threatening somehow because we're not familiar with it.
Yeah. Yes. I agree. No, I agree with you. And I'm still back on when you said we have to make a decision or we're constantly making a decision. And while that's true, I think the illusion and the flip side to that is is that sometimes decisions are made for us. And I get that we're allowing that, but like, sorry,
Mhm.
I'm married to you. I'm using you as an example.
No, you're gonna tell one of my stories. I already admitted I took a
Let,
train to
let me have a
Colorado.
spontaneous kiss like John wants.
There it is.
All right.
All right.
No, but I think, like, for example, you are a master at not committing. Oh
Except
my
for
God, there
except for
you
the
go
drinking on
again.
screen. I couldn't wait.
Michael Mangus.
It
That's
was a
his paycheck.
spontaneous act. I took a drink.
Yeah. That's how it begins.
That's how
It's
it begins.
one sip.
One drink.
Okay. No, but what I was gonna say is that, like, you are a master at, never committing to anything. How did you like the food? It was kind of good. It was pretty good. It's kind of. Do you want to do you want to go swimming, or do you want to go, to the mountains? Oh, I like both are good. I kind of like both. You put those words in all the time, and I know you don't even notice how much you do it, but I do.
You do.
I do. But I'm just saying, so you're not, I mean, you are making a decision because you're just willing to go along with whatever happens on some level. However, like, how much more powerful would it be if you really made the decision? I mean, and I think, well, let me ask you, why do you think you do that?
Because, well, for one, I want to get along.
Mhm.
I want other people to get what they want, in theory. And I don't have to make a bad decision, quote unquote. I don't have to make a wrong decision. If I don't make the decision, then I didn't make a bad decision.
But half the time, not making a decision leads you to a fight with me.
Well, or to a bad decision because the decision gets made somehow in some process where
Right.
I didn't complete something because I didn't want to, I felt these, yeah. And then at the space is, then suddenly there's no decision because it's too late.
Right.
The time has passed.
I think those fears, are what we all have to look at when we start to please people or want to have everybody like us,
Mm-hmm.
or any of those. I mean, I think, like, identifying those biggest fears and what holds you back, because there's other times where I know you've made a decision, or we've been with people that are like, boom, boom, boom. And, like, it's powerful to do that as well, and to move out into the world, like, with the intention of exactly what you're doing, as opposed to, oh, well, if we get to a Mexican restaurant before we get to a Chinese one, that's okay. We'll have Mexican. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying, right?
So there's there's spontaneity, there's making decisions, there's doing something out of the ordinary.
Mhm.
And then there's not making decisions, if you will, which is kind of different. And there's having an intention and following your intention, and then there's planning every step so that you can't. There's no, you get the sheet of paper. It says this, and this, and that's it. That's all there is. And even going to a conference or being involved in the conference, this last conference we were at, you got sent out on stage to speak, and you didn't realize that was going to happen exactly the way it did, and you had to be in the moment and be spontaneous. And so even in the midst of this very well planned, organized event, there were these places where spontaneity was important. The ability to decide what's happening in the room, who's, all of that in the moment. And I would classify that as spontaneous.
Certainly for me, I have no idea what they knew the whole time. But I want to say also, though, I think what you're speaking to is really important, because I think that what's important in this conversation is, what do we get? What do we gain by having those fears? How do we overcome those fears in order to lead us to the possibility of being able to be more spontaneous? What will we gain by that? Because yes, what you said about speaking at the conference and not knowing what I was doing, but just trusting, I think that played into our weekend as well, because when I did get the call from Reverend Joan, who said, "Can you speak tomorrow?" I had to stop and listen and really know that, okay, this is mine to do. And I don't know how I'm going to do it. If I start to think about how, it's over. I mean, if I start to think about how and why and what'll it look like and can I do it and how am I going to ever talk about the topic, and what if people are coming to see her and they see me, and all those things, then I'm onto another thing, and I've been taken out of the invitation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the thing is when we do that, like, so probably the conference allowed me to say yes and actually go home that night and go to bed. We didn't even look at the topic. We talked for a few minutes and got up in the morning and I just knew that it was going to come through, and I just trusted, that it was the right thing to do. Just like, when you said pack a bag, I trusted something good was going to happen. If you put me on a train to to go to Colorado or Chicago, I might not have been as happy, or who knows, maybe I would have been. But you know what I mean? So it's like, I guess trust is part of the factor as well, and trusting yourself. Oh, trusting yourself. It all comes back to the same thing. But that's trusting spirit.
Oh.
All right, let's see what John is saying. I'm working diligently to release boring program patterns and living more in the flow. Oh, breathe. Everybody breathe, because I think we can all do a little of that. When I'm in the flow and confident and willing to be courageous, I feel spontaneous choice is organically presented and accepted and feels divine. Nice. I think that's super important. I do. And I think what you're saying too is, I think when you're doing that, we are actually honoring the divine. We're honoring the divine in us. We're looking at what's shown up and trusting that it is the next step, that it is, and maybe the next step sometimes is to say no. That may be the step, and that's okay too. I often, people say there's no, spirit doesn't test you. Spirit doesn't do this. I'm pretty sure spirit tests. I don't know about you all, but spirit has tested me numerous times. And is test a bad thing? I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's an opportunity to grow, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a shift from the idea of test to the idea of an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to make a choice that we didn't think we could make, or we didn't expect to make, or we didn't really want to have to make. And just because I didn't want to doesn't mean it isn't a good choice.
Right. I think a lot of times when, especially when we're teaching classes and things like that, or kids are getting ready to take tests, to become practitioners or ministers, I feel, one of the things that I always say is there is no test. There's only a testimony of our love of spirit. Because if we're truly surrendering to that moment, can we surrender in that moment to the knowingness that God is right there, present, all that there is, right? So I think Shay says that is so freeing, Robyn. Trust.
And trust is about, like you said, it's about ourselves. It's about knowing that the knower within us knows, we know. And therefore, when the opportunity comes to, quote, decide something, that we already know what that decision is, and we just have to allow it to come forth. And sometimes it looks like a pretty crazy decision. But if we let that decision be dictated only by past experience, only by the plan that we have down on paper, only by our desire to be liked or whatever, then we're not really making that decision. We're just directing ourselves in a pre-described direction and not taking advantage of the opportunity to learn.
Right. And so I would encourage everybody, this would be my assignment for the week.
Here we go.
Let's do an assignment. I have a different assignment for you, but let's do you can play on this one too. No, really. Because I think that the spontaneity and the intention is really about switching up your routine in some ways. Even if it's little changes like, I don't know, you've always wanted to try the iced brew at Starbucks, but you can't stop ordering the latte or whatever. Can you just switch it can you take that little step and do little things, switch little things, or go to a different restaurant, just change up your routine in some small way. How can you make a small change this week? Just like, can you make 3 small changes this week? That would be my thing. And I'll do the same, of course. I'll do the same. What I was going to say to you and anybody who wants to take this on out there is, can you answer a question with a yes or a no? Can you at least become aware? No, really, can you become aware of the pattern? Just watch the pattern and not be in the always kinda, maybe, if you want, kind of thing. And I'll take that on for myself. I do that a lot. We know. You don't try to make dinner plans with us. What do you want? No, I could do that. What do you want? It takes a long time, and usually by that time we're mad and not hungry.
Mad and over hungry.
Mad and over hungry. Anyway, so are you willing to take that challenge?
Yes. Say something else. I changed it.
Good.
I spontaneously changed it.
And you didn't spontaneously combust. So we're in good thing. So yeah, just think about your intention for yourself,
Okay.
to have more fun, to be adventurous, to do something different, all of that.
John says, I can't do that. Which piece, John, can't you do? Because I don't believe you.
John's doing that all the time.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Because I'm curious. It just made me curious, John.
Yeah. So that's my invitation for the week.
Okay.
And
I feel better. He says he's kidding.
Okay.
All right.
And that's my invitation to you too, producer Michael Mangus. I see you back there thinking that you're going to be able to slide by. No. We're going to check in with you next week and see what things you changed in your life. And let me make a different invitation as well. Maybe you want to tithe today to New Thought Media Network. Maybe you never have. I know that John is one of our regular subscribers, so he's getting a monthly thing taken out. Well, maybe you want to just throw a couple dollars your way this way, and that really helps the station. There is no amount too small, so it's just an invitation in case you didn't know what you wanted to do differently. Maybe that's it.
Yes, that's a great idea. That's doing something spontaneous. Give somewhere, volunteer somewhere, show up somewhere that you've never shown up before.
You tell us next week what you did. We want to see you right here on New Thought Media Network. And this is what you got to do all week. While you're doing that, you got to rock the love, everybody.
Rock it.
We're changing the world. We'll see you next week.